Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone here today. My name is Judy Fox, and I serve as the Program Manager for the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, also known as LARC, which represents 19 community colleges across the Los Angeles region. I also have the pleasure of co-leading the LARC AI Task Force with Chair and Assistant Vice President Dr. Narane Makijan. Today's AI professional development session, AI Assistance as Task and Problem-Solving Partners, is made possible through our partnership with the Los Angeles County Office of Education, also known as LACO, and the coordination and vision of LARC's AI Task Force. Leading today's session is Eduvators Technical Director, Dr. Raina Walsinger, and Managing Director, Marcy Drummond, who will provide hands-on opportunities today so you can explore AI assistance to help you boost your productivity, creativity, and critical thinking in classrooms, workplaces, and in your projects. You'll find today's professional development session and more in the LARC AI Learning Library, and we'll be sure to drop that link in the chat for you. And with that, I turn it over to Eduvators to get today's professional development started.
All right, thanks so much, Judy. I'm gonna share our slides from my end. Good morning, everybody. We got some feedback to do more hands-on, and that's exactly what we're gonna do today. So get ready in the background with your favorite AI apps that you use, and we're gonna go through AI in action today. So I'll hand it to Marcy. Good morning.
Go ahead to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so if you could, we'd like to know who's joined us today. And we did look at the list of people who had registered, so that was very helpful. But in the chat, if you could share your name, your role, what department or subject area you work in. And the number third is we'd like to know what your experience with AI is. So you can say never used or a few times or regularly. That would be very helpful to us.
Oh,
There's an example down there.
Yeah, in the chat, you're gonna be me also because we're using the same link.
Yes. So I'm actually Marcy Drummond, but I'm using Rena's login. So you're going to see me as Rena. Okay, we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide.
Okay.
Up one.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so just getting to know us. Probably most of you have been here before, but my background is in industry and education. So I've been a faculty and a dean, and currently at two colleges, and then really working on AI with both of them. And my background in industry is in bioengineering, and in music and film. So we're going to go over some of the things, how I'm using AI in those worlds today. Pass it to Marcy.
Yes, so I'm Marcy Drummond, and my background is both in business, higher ed, mostly at community colleges, mostly as a administrator, but I have served as a faculty, so I have done teaching as well. And then also in education philanthropy. So I worked at both the Gates Foundation as well as the ACT Foundation. So I bring a lot of it, things that I bring into the workshop are more task related to administrative tasks that people have to do. And then Rena really focuses on the teaching. So our learning objectives are today, and I see from the chat that we have people who use AI regularly. So we tried to bring in information for those who might be beginners to those that might be more advanced. But we really wanted to go into distinguishing how you work with an AI assistant if it's a task versus a problem. There's slight differences between the two. And then how to write effective tasks or prompts if you're asking it to do a task versus a problem. And then some strategies for using AI as a problem thinking solving partner. We use multiple tools, and so part of the challenge is using the right tool for the right task or the right tool for the right problem. So we go into that a little bit more. While you can use any tool for any task or problem, some are better at some things than others. So there is a strategy around that. And then we end with some more advanced strategies for getting better results over time. And I'm going to put the link to a workshop drive in there that has both the PowerPoint and all the resources that we're sharing today. Okay. We have some other workshops coming up where we dive more into using images and video and audio and creating AI assistants and agents. Today, most of what we're focusing are really on more text-based. Rena does get into some image making and things like that, but a lot of ours is that we're showing today is really around tasks that result in reports and documents that are text-based, as well as problem solving that's like a text-based conversation. And then at the end, we'll give you some information on the more creative tasks and problem solving that we're going to do later in other workshops.
So this is how, just an example, yours is going to look different of signing on to your apps. So every college in our system has a different way that IT does it. This is one of them that I use at Saddleback, where we have a portal, and so all the apps are on a single sign-on, and that's where I have my Canvas. You'll see Adobe there, but to that, they're rolling out. We all have Microsoft Copilot, so that's one that we're going to be using today. And another one is just rolling out, but it's not at most colleges yet, is we do have Google EDU, which is Google Pro with FERPA compliance version. But you have to get to it through your single sign-on so that it goes through single sign-on and you get that version. And if you haven't done that, it might not have rolled out to your college yet, but we'll be showing you those today. And if you don't have it, then it's fine for this workshop. You can use other things that you've been using so far. Any questions about that? Seems to be confusing when I teach it, like which version everybody's on, because people have other versions besides their school versions.
Okay, since we are doing hands-on, if you could log into the AI tool that you prefer to use or have access to, and if you don't, you can easily create an account to those first two in particular. I'm gonna put the account information in there if you have to create an account. So we'll wait a few minutes and give you an opportunity to pull up an AI tool or create an account.
Yeah, while you're talking about that, so I had to actually create a second Notebook LM account for me because Google, I have a pro account for Gemini, but my EDU one, to connect to Notebook LM as an input source, you have to use the school's environment. That's part of FERPA. So I actually had to create a new Notebook LM environment that through that other Gemini account. Because I was confused at first because I was like clicked on Notebook LM and my notebooks weren't there. Like, okay.
Is there anybody who needs some troubleshooting for creating an account? If you could raise your hand, it will help. I can help you in the chat. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So there are two different approaches to tasks and problem solving using an AI assistant. So tasks are where their process is known and you have something in your mind that you have a very defined output that you want. So you know what you want, you're just going to give the AI assistant some very clear instructions, and the clearer the constructions with the more background information you can provide to the AI assistant, the better results you will get. On the other side, with problem solving and decisions, the path is unknown. You don't have a definitive output in mind. It's kind of up in the air and you're just getting started and you don't know where to begin. And so you're going to use AI as sort of a conversational back and forth partner to start to narrow down the problem or the decision you need to make and to come up with some alternative solutions that you might want to use. So the way that you prompt the AI assistant for tasks is different for problem solving, and we're going to go through both and give you an opportunity to practice both. Next slide, please.
Right.
Okay, the other thing is what are great tasks to use an AI assistant for? So, for things that are pretty well defined, you have a known format that you're looking for, or it'll even suggest, oftentimes I won't know my format and it'll create a format for you, and then you can iterate with it and say, oh, I really like the table, but can you turn it into a rubric? And for also for tasks that don't require a lot of judgment or decision making, which we'll show in a minute because you're the final decision maker. If it would take you 30 plus minutes to do something, that's a great thing for an AI task. If it only take you a few minutes, it might not be worth using AI because you might be able to do it faster yourself. Um, and I always use it to create first drafts, so that's a great use for it. And then you can start to iterate and refine because it just gets you started. And then it's also great if you have repeatable tasks that may not have identical, like let's say I use it a lot for creating guides. So my guides are out for different topics and for different audiences, but it's a task I repeat over time. And so I use AI to help me. I've got a template, and then I have it help me create a new guide for a new audience and a new purpose. So those are great uses for using AI for tasks. Rena, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing. So I create a lot of hashtags 'cause I do a lot of social media and YouTube and all that. And so literally every time I ask, I think it's ChatGPT Pro, it puts hashtags at the end of everything. So I have to teach it to only do it when I want it.
I'm going to put up, we have a guide on this with, on what are great AI ready tasks with some tools and more information. And I just put a link to that guide up in the chat, and it's also in the G Drive that we share. So this is your universal task prompt. So for those of you who've used AI a lot, probably already have an approach that you use for using it for tasks. But this is the four things that you should give the AI to get really good results. So first is you can tell it what you need or what your goal is. You give it some context, some background information on your audience. Um, Oftentimes I'll describe um, in my goal, what I'm eventually trying to get to. So the more information you can give it, if you have an idea of what you want the output to look like, you can give it requirements like, give it to me in bullet points, no emojis. Um, I want a lot of detail or any sort of additional requirements that you might want, and then any other additional details. So, like, let's say you're asking it to help you develop a budget, you might give it your budget constraints. If, let's say, you're working on something for a workshop, it would be helpful to tell it how long the workshop is, how many people are you think are going to participate. So, those are some additional details you can provide.
Also, it remembers you if you have a paid account on any of these, or if you're using the EDU account. So if you're doing something every single time, you're going to say, remember that remember that I'm a professor teaching AI and technology. So it goes, okay, I remembered that. So now I don't have to type that every time. But I might be doing something where I'm not doing that. Like now I'm doing composing. So I would then tell it, I'm in this role right now doing this stuff. So, but if you're doing something every time, you can just tell it to remember now and it will.
And the little tip at the bottom, can you go back for a second? As you start to use AI more over time, you stop thinking about this prompt template and you just start treating your AI that you use as a person. I do. I type to it like I'm talking to a person. And I found that once I start to transition to that mode, that the results I'm getting is much, much better. So I don't worry about this prompt structure anymore. I just start to, like I said, I just start treating it truly as my personal assistant.
Yeah, you kind of get in auto mode because when looking at this, like, yeah, I do those, but without looking at it now because I've done it so many times.
So here are some task prompts. I'll take the first. Why don't you take the first one, Rena, and I'll take this. We'll alternate.
Okay, sure. So we put some examples here before you guys are going to do your own. So you can see the prompt there for faculty, need to create a lab safety reminder for my welding students, make a number checklist. It says so it says who you are, where that's happening, what's the audience, and then how many items. Because I can tell you, if you don't put how many items, it'll just give you like 3 pages of stuff. And I make that mistake. That's probably my most common mistake. I'm like, oh, it's too long. Um, and then, so tell it how long you need to be, or if it's, this is going to be numbered items, and then what to include. And especially being a faculty, like, you know what to include. So you don't just let it go in the wild west. And it's like, I usually make sure to include da 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 da, da like as a natural thing that I do when I prompt. And then it has a tone there. I don't do that because my tone for mine is in my instructions that I told it to remember, but it knows like that I'm teaching and the tone that it's supposed to use. So that's that. So go ahead.
The next examples for like an administrator or staff, and it's drafting an email to industry partners. And next Thursday at two, it gave it some tone and some extra instructions about include what input we need from them. One thing that people make a mistake of when they do prompting for tasks is that you assume the AI assistant knows some things about you and your organization, and it doesn't unless you've given it, like Rena said, some instructions that's saved in its memory. So if I wanted it to give the specific name of the advisory board, it doesn't know that. So I'd have to feed that information to it, or I'd give it a link to a website that information is on. So or I'd upload a file with information related to the advisory board. So that's just an added tip about these task prompts. It's things you might need to do that are extra to give it enough context that you're going to get a good result.
The last one's for business and industry, making a sign for safety, a quick reference for new employees. I was just thinking about that because I used to make those for the clean room where I worked. So, and we always had to update them based on whatever the new rules were. But, and then, you can print them and post them. So actually, that's pretty common. It's also common on personal levels because people are making signs for parties and all kinds of things using, you can use these and you can make print, but you can also add images to those. And it's much easier than it used to be to create.
Okay, so we're going to give you a practice. I'm uploading a practice guide. And in it, there are 3 levels depending on how much you use AI. So there's some ready-made prompts in there that you can just cut and paste into the AI assistant that you opened at the beginning. In the intermediate task, you'll use the prompt template that I'm going to post in the chat in a minute and just input additional details that are specific to you for a specific task you want to do this week. And then advanced is where you forget the prompt and you start creating a very robust prompt that has a lot of context in it for something that you want the AI assistant to do. Okay, this is a pretty long example prompt. Oops. Actually, I think I combined 2 in here. I did. Sorry. Forget the prompt I just put in there. Let me I put in the one for problem solving. Let me find the one. It's in your guide I just uploaded. Here we go. Oops. Ready-made prompts. So if you open up the guide I put, you'll see some ready-made prompts in there that you can just cut and paste into a tool.
I got mine to give me the wrong answer and had to redo it. Sometimes it doesn't know what the verb is because it'll, like I wanted it to talk about this create, but understood that not as a tab on Microsoft, but as a verb, right? So it gave me the wrong answer. I had to go back and explain it.
Judy, did you have a question?
Um, yeah, just I think referring to the other prompts too, when there was the example in the workforce for a flyer, for example, sometimes when you put in there the instructions and you want a flyer, it'll tell you how to create it. So sometimes I'll add show me with an image so it will create it for me so that I can take a look at it. And that's just another little um, added piece of the prompt that you can add to get some great output.
Do you have
That-
a preferred one for that, Judy?
Do I have what?
You have a preferred app that you do those types of flyers in?
I honestly, I usually use Chat GPT and then it spits out a design and then I usually will, if I can take it directly, I will, but I usually recreate it in Canva.
Yeah. Oh, Canva. Yeah. I
Mhm.
love Canva. Um, when we get to Microsoft, I'll show you that area where the newer area where it has flyers.
Well, that's a good example too, Judy, where you start using it as truly as your own personal assistant and don't rely on your prompt so much, this prompt structure. So you could even start with saying, hey, I've got this task. Uh, can you walk me through it? Or what do you suggest? How do we begin? And not even type the prompt in. Get the AI to start working with you on completing that task, and it'll come up with even better ideas than I would ever think of. So it might say, hey, an image would be helpful here, or how would you like, would you like an image?
Because I'm a visual learner, so that's helpful for me when I ask it to translate information into an image and I can kind of see it. So
Okay, would anybody care to share in the chat? Actually, if you could go to the next slide,
Okay.
Rena. Uh, so if you could share this in the chat. So when you put your prompt in, did you get the output you were thinking you might get? And if not, what sort of refinement did you do or would you do to get a better output? And did anything surprise you when you entered the prompt into the AI assistant?
Good morning. This is Kathy Becky. Sorry, I got dropped off the call for a second. And I'm familiar a little bit with prompting. In the past, I couldn't do it now because I'm moving my computer, but in the past, one thing that I asked for ChatGPT to edit a few pages, I would say. And it slaughtered it. It did not work at all. It came back like with a summary, like with the checkpoints, as opposed to an high level editing. And now you've got me with your question, asking myself, okay. I know in the like in the back of the setup, like in the settings, you can change the output to where it provides narrative as opposed to checkpoints. So that I made that change. And I did notice a change in how it responds to my requests, but I still have to figure out a good prompt for high level editing. Like I've published stuff, and so I know how the content needs to look like in order for me to be able to publish it, Sorry, my
So
phone went off.
that's okay. So Kathy, I'm glad you brought that up. So when you do something in your settings, you're telling your AI assistant to apply that setting to every output. So if you wanted bullet points every single time, then almost every time, then you would do that in your settings. But if it's just you want bullet points for just this one task, then you tell it that in your prompt. You'd give that as how you want your output. The other thing is I have some great things for editing. I think, Rena, are you going to tell it to take on a persona later on as your
Yeah.
tip?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I do. I ask it to act as an editor. And then,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, so we can get into that and we'll come back to your example because that's a great example of doing some advanced things to get better outputs.
So thank you
Jamal?
for pointing out that I can put it in the prompt as opposed to all my output. That helps. Thanks.
Yeah,
Also, we see quite a bit of difference, at least I do. I know Marcy does in the same app. Like if I use Chat GPT Freeze, I have all kinds of versions because I teach, so I try to show students on my phone and on my tablet and the free one and the paid one and all that. So with that experimentation, I found so it prompted me to buy a paid version of something, and Marcy has a paid version of something. So when you go to the higher, it lets you get a higher thinking. So when I put mine on thinking, it takes a lot longer, but oh my gosh, the results are completely different.
yeah,
Especially the one big one, because I love making images that are notated for scientific images. I have one in here that you'll see, and you get like garbage on the regular one, and then if you put it in thinking, it's like literally perfect. So those, I guess the models are designed to kind of save time and money unless you're doing something
yeah.
important like we do. So
And
that,
later
yeah.
on, we'll get into the difference between the tools. And so for writing, Claude is the most superior. ChatGPT tends to be much more technical in its verbatim. The way it writes is very technical and much more abbreviated than other models as well. Jamal, did you have something you wanted to share?
I was just going to say that you guys already said it, that if you tell it act as, it makes the things totally different. Act as a editor of my whatever, and that helped me a lot to narrow it down. Act as a I don't know, professor looking at this, as act as whatever. That helped me a lot, and you got to mention it, and I think that fixed a lot of stuff for me.
Yeah.
Right.
I also use a team approach. So for writing, I'll say, you're my team. And on the team, I have a drafter, an editor, a proof checker. And then I'll say, okay, and I'll have it do the steps. And then I'll refine at each step. And then I'll say, okay, now can the editor do this? Now can the so and so do that? And that's another trick for especially for writing. I do that for research, so I have different roles for the researcher. So I usually create a team now, um, often with my tasks.
That's brilliant.
Do you mind sharing examples of some of those roles? Like, can you elaborate on that a little more, please?
Yeah, and I'll even upload, I've got an outline somewhere about specifically for writing the different roles that I have it take on. So like even if I'm going to eventually put it on a website, like I'll have an SEO optimizer that can actually, take on that role. So I'll share that in the chat with you. I'll go hunt for it.
Thank you so
So,
much.
If
yes.
you can share it in Cloud if you want. I could stop sharing it. That's easier.
Oh, and if I can't find it, Kathy, I'll put it in the drive that we gave links to. So it'll be in there with by the end of today.
Thanks so much. I really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
Yeah, that's
Okay, go ahead, Rena, to the next one.
there we go.
Okay, so that's for tasks. For problem solving, you don't know the answer yet, and you're trying to choose between options or sort of refine your thinking. And so you move from being treating it as an assistant that's gonna create something for you to a thinking partner that you're gonna iterate with it. And so you're going to go back and forth multiple times to get to the bottom of your problem. You're going to share what your constraints are, what your situation is, what you've tried. The only thing I would say about that is depending on the how you signed in and what tool you're using, some are more secure than others. So be careful what you share. If you're signed into your college account, you're fine. There's enterprise security on there. But if you're on a personal account, I was working on a project for a national foundation and I made the mistake of putting the foundation name in there and I went, uh-oh. And I thought, oh, this is what I teach people all the time is don't share names, don't do this, don't do that. And I made that mistake and I'm really my bad, my bad. So just be cautious about that. You're going to have AI ask you questions so that it has a full understanding of your context before it can start helping you solve the problem. Oftentimes, I'll ask it to give me multiple perspectives, but ultimately, you make the final decision. So don't take its recommendation full hand. That's why I usually ask for multiple options at the end because you tend to say, "Oh, that's a great solution," and then you run off and you haven't really thought it through. So this is sort of the basic universal prompt you use for problem solving. You say, I'm dealing with a situation. Here's the context and what you need help with. And then you say, before we begin, you say to the AI assistant, what questions do you have about my situation? Or what more do you need to know to help me start to solve this problem?
Yeah, it's pretty good at asking questions, but sometimes like the more you give it, the better it is. And I love that Google Notebook LM example that Jamal said, because you can also have it refer to your notebook for background on your problem before you even go into the prompt. I'll show that when we get into Gemini, where that connector is.
Okay, next slide. There's also another trick that I like to use is if you know some great problem solving frameworks, you can give that as part of your prompt. You can say, I'm dealing with this problem. Can you use the 5 whys technique to work me through this? I just uploaded in the chat a link to the problem solving with AI resource document. So it walks through what each of these frameworks are. So you would use a root cause analysis if you're trying to figure out obviously what the root cause is. 5 whys helps you go a little deeper and a little deeper. The PDCA cycle is a technique for testing something out with your AI assistant before you try it out in real life. I think everybody's pretty familiar with a SWOT analysis and what a force field analysis are, but you might have other frameworks you like to use for decision making. I can even, back to that persona, oftentimes I'll say, act like a problem solving expert that works for a consulting firm like McKinsey. So those are some other techniques you could use for problem solving. But a pretty simple prompt there is at the bottom. I need to decide between option A and B. Here's my situation. Help me think through the trade-offs, what I might be overlooking, and what could go wrong with each option. So those are all examples of how you can use it for problem solving.
I just think
So
how great that would be for like a equipment lab, because like a real example, and in the past is like we have this great lab, and English classes were bigger than the class. They ran out of room, and they want to use the lab with all the equipment where like photography students are. So it's like, okay, we have this situation, and here's these students, and here's these times. So like, how should we use this lab properly? And then you get like it's different than just like a political opinion or something, popular opinion.
and then we gave you 2 examples. So it's like, what do you want AI to help you with? You want him to help you diagnose the situation, like what's going on here, versus I actually need to make a decision. And then the PDCA cycle is an example of both. It'll work you through first diagnosing and then trying to decide. Um, that I found that a lot of people are using AI assistants using these frameworks. So sometimes they may go right into one of these frameworks if you just give it the problem. And you'll be able, once you use them, you'll see why. The other day I used Claude for something and I could tell right away it was going through the 5 whys approach to helping me solve that problem. Okay, I'm going to upload into the chat just like I did for activity number 1. Here are some activities you can try. And we have 3 levels of activities. So there's a beginner where you can just cut and paste a prompt, a ready-made prompt from this guide right into your AI assistant. In the intermediate, this is where you bring your own challenge and you ask it to choose one of these frameworks. And then in the advanced is you have a really pressing, high stake sort of problem, a challenge of your own, and you're going to tell AI what you think you want to do, and you're going to ask it to play devil's advocate to help you build a rationale around it. So if you could just go to the guide and glance in there and find an activity you'd like to do based on your comfort level, we'll wait while you do that.
Mine gave awesome arguments. Better than I could come up with.
Irina, you want to go to the next slide?
Oh, I have a quick question. I just typed
Uh-huh.
in www.educators.net and it says that web domain is not available anymore.
It's Eduvators with a V.
Eduvators, not educators. Okay.
Yeah.
Read more carefully. Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
great. Okay.
So thank you for sharing, Sabrina. If others could share out too. So what was your challenge? did you have some back and forth exchanges? Did it surface anything you hadn't considered? And did it help you see your options more differently or better?
I could just comment on that unless Sabrina wants to go, but let's see.
Can share.
Oh, go ahead.
So when I first initially put the prompt in, it spewed out this long, different steps. So I went back and asked it to shorten it so that way I could understand exactly what it meant. And then it gave me a shorter diagnosis and an action plan. And then it also gave me some quick fix ideas, like low budget ideas. It specifically said low budget ideas. And then it keeps going on to continue the conversation. It's asking me when will they be scheduled, whether it's flex credit, is it full time versus adjunct?
Well, I'm curious, Sabrina, what AI assistant were you using? Which tool?
ChatGPT.
Okay. And so you can see the difference between the output you got when you gave it a task related prompt and how when you use a problem solving sort of prompt, how it wants to keep going with you. You know, it really wants to help you solve your problem or your dilemma or diagnose something.
Definitely.
Jamal?
Yeah, I really like the part that you guys put in the tips for using these prompts. And especially don't stop after the first response and push back when the suggestions don't fit. I really think that as a community, we have to keep pushing this. This is not like a Google, you just go in there and type something and you get it and that's done. And I like your idea of treating this as a assistant, not as a replacement, and I'm keep pushing it. Another note that I wanted to put here, I don't know if it's a place or not, or you're going to be doing it. So when we are concerned about the data privacy, the ChatGPT paid version has a section that you can turn off, not to use your data for training. Gemini, no matter what you do, is going to use your data. I have not spent enough time with Copilot to figure that out yet. I just want to put that on the table.
Yes. And I'm glad you did, Jamal. When you get your accounts through your institutions, and when we say when, because the chancellor's office, the statewide chancellor's office is rolling these out to every college, you know, your Microsoft Office Copilot and your Gemini. If you sign in using your college issued account, everything is kept behind firewalls and kept safe. So, and that what you're putting in is not used to train the models. Now,
Another issue, the issue that I have with the model that we have for Google in our school, it doesn't give me the things that's available. They have to put some firewall around it, but it doesn't work for me, so I had to have my own account.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are finding that many of the advanced options and tools are turned off in the EDU versions. So, my strategy for that is like if I'm using data or thing that's really sensitive, I keep it under the firewall and then I switch to my personal account for things that aren't where privacy or students' personal information isn't being used.
Do you want me to share my EDU real fast? My
Sure.
Gemini later. Okay. Let me do that.
And then I'll talk through what I did. I put that I wanted to try to decide if I should flip my classroom. And then when I started dialoguing with the AI, and I was concerned because many of our students do not have reliable internet access. And so we started talking through that. And then it surfaced that actually my dean is pushing us to do more flipped classroom instruction. And my AI assistants eventually gave me talking points with how to talk to the department chair and the dean about flipped classrooms and what some strategies might be. And it came up with some really good strategies. But I love that it talked me through having a conversation with my colleagues about moving to a flipped classroom as well.
So this is I have two Geminis as well. One is my pro account and this is my EDU account. So this is the one we're all getting as long as you work at a college, and the students get it too, as long as your IT rolls it out. It has all the things that Pro has here, and you can put it in Pro mode, And now it's the new model. I think it's 3.1 or 3.2, whatever we're on now, is better at math and coding supposedly. And it has connectors. So these are inputs. You can input files from your Google Drive or now Notebook LM, which is why I had to create a new Notebook LM because it needs to be inside of this EDU environment for FERPA. So once you do that, you can build notebooks. Like I have one with all my syllabus and whatever, and then I can like generate stuff about my classes, and it'll just refer to that notebook when I click it. So once I click on that, it just goes, these are the things that I've got in my notebook right now, and it just uses those as inputs, which is great. So what it doesn't have is video, and it doesn't have the other one has copy code on my Pro one, and it has photos. So it doesn't connect to those things. I guess that makes it not FERPA compliant or something like
How
that.
do you sign up with this EDU version?
So for me, and then again, it's rolling out. So I'm assuming like another college where they don't have it rolled out yet. But on mine, I have a single sign-on portal, and then there's a Google Workspace. So this is the only way I know how to do it. There's 9 dots. And I go to Gemini, then it flips to my EDU version.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just
what,
type
what,
Gemini in my thing, then it just goes to my pro version. So, but this is I have both because teaching this is the one the students are on. So if you haven't seen it yet, you could ask. I would ask IT. They probably have the schedule, but most of them are working on it. Let's put it that way.
Jorge, did you have a question or a comment?
yeah, I had a similar question. What college is that? Is that through? What college are you
Saddleback.
teaching? Oh, Saddleback has it rolled out.
Yeah, so
Saddleback
all
has
my
Gemini.
students have it.
Oh, how cool. Awesome.
Yeah, they're loving
And
it. Yeah.
I know that there's pressure to get that out too because of the open educational resource. They want especially faculty, but everybody to have access to these tools so that they can start to create more, free resources for students given the OER, the push to get everything into OER.
In Pasadena, we have 2 accounts. One starts with Go, the other one doesn't start with Go. So if I want to go to that section that she was showing, I have to switch my account to go.pasadena.edu, and everything is over there.
Yeah, so each IT and yeah, every college is totally different. And I don't know which ones rolled it out. I just know that mostly they're still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, you probably aren't going to get any sort of email or notification that it went live. You're just going to have to keep checking back to
That's
where
not
you
like Ask
usually-
IT.
Yeah, or keep sending emails to your IT department or your chairs or your deans or
Yeah.
your lead faculty instructional person.
Yeah, whoever's doing your Microsoft 365, same people are doing this probably. Okay.
Okay. So which tool to use for what? You want to start with Gemini Copilot and I'll do Claude and
Yeah, so
Notebook. Okay.
this is like 5 years of research between the two of us, and I did a lot of this in industry as well. And they're all a little bit different, and so it kind of becomes it's not a problem. It's not a problem. You just got to know what they all do. And these are just a few of them. Like I have a whole bunch of other stuff that I used to make other things, but for Gemini, I like it because you can make complex apps now, and I do vibe coding. So there's anti-gravity for if any of you are doing that types of stuff in their environment. But what it does, it connects to all their environment. So if you're using Google Docs or Sheets, if you want Google Maps somewhere, you're making an app with Google Maps, you're connecting to your Google Drive. You want a lot of coding that's not going to run out of tokens. Their new models are amazing. So I use Gemini a lot more now, and my students, some of them actually switched from ChatGPT because they had the free version to the EDU Gemini, and they're all really happy about that. And then for ChatGPT, the free one now has ads, which nobody likes, and it also will train on your data. So I personally pay for the Pro one, which is $20 a month, but it's really great for like curriculum and module stuff. Again, technical writing, not the type of writing that Marcy and I do different types of writing, so it's pretty great. So I use ChatGPT for my technical stuff, for LinkedIn descriptions, discussion posts, things like that. It's not very good at sometimes putting all the words in a diagram. Unless you use a paid version, then it'll work better. It makes great tables, accessible tables as well, for Canvas. And which other one, Marcy, do you want me to go over?
That's fine. I'll
Okay.
cover the.
All right, cool.
So I primarily use Claude, and I use the pro version because I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of long documents. So it's great if you have big, you want to create something that's got a lot of content in it, or you're using a resource that's got a lot of content in it. Claude is wonderful. It's also, they just came out with a new model where it creates beautiful documents and Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentation. It just blew my mind. A week ago, it made that change. And I would, a week ago, I would have said, don't use Claude for that. So that's the one thing about this list, it's constantly changing. So if you came back a month from now, this might look a little different, but Claude is like my best friend, and I use it for a lot of things, and for creating long research reports. But I usually do my research in Gemini. I like Gemini's deep research feature. In a minute, we'll show you a strategy about using multiple ones and sort of pitting them against each other. Notebook LM is great if you have source documents you want it to stick to. You have a range of resources, and you're going to start to have it create some cool, and we'll show that in a minute, some really good like audio files and video files, but it sticks to the documents you preload for making those resources. And then Copilot, both Copilot and Gemini are great if you're working in a Microsoft environment. So Copilot is fantastic because it synthesizes everything throughout the whole Microsoft Tools suite. So if you have information in Excel and in your OneDrive, and maybe you have emails and you want it to synthesize all that information from all the sources, you don't have to go from source to source. It will automatically look everywhere in all your sources and help you synthesize. And Gemini does the same thing if you're working in a Google environment with Google Docs, Google Sheets. So those are integrated. And then again, you're going to get the EDU version, so they're more secure if you're logging in that way. I mean, you can use one tool and do all the things we've talked about. This is just to show you which ones are better at certain things than others.
Just one more thing, kind of from a teaching industry perspective. So industry will be in one or the other at this point. And so if you talk to somebody in like they're a coder, like, oh, I'm an Azure person and we have Microsoft, whatever they're doing, or they're a Google Workspace and they're doing Gemini, and they might have one other thing like ChatGPT or Cloud or whatever. And that's important because when you're preparing students for work, it's kind of important to understand the environments, because that's like literally the whole environment they're going to work in. And we have both of those for students in our system, which is great.
And then one more thing, we both said we have paid versions. So it's oftentimes my strategy is I'll upgrade. Like I say, I have a big project, I'll upgrade to a paid version, do that project, and then go back to the free version when I don't have a big project that I'm working on. And we had several
Question.
hands up. So do we have
I'm sorry.
questions, comments? Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As I said, I didn't use Copilot. I just, as soon as I'm trying to get expert in one of them, then another one comes up. With the Copilot, did you say that I can use it to read and write emails for me?
Absolutely. And we can show that. We don't have it queued up to do that in advance, but we're happy to switch over to that. So when you open up Microsoft, you have to be in your 365 environment. So you're going to use the cloud-based version. And when you open up your cloud-based version 365, Copilot is automatically started. You don't have to ask it to come and start. And so we'll show that in a minute, but it'll interact with everything in your whole 365 environment. Judy, did you have a?
I do. Yeah, we don't have to answer this right now, but I had bought the ChatGPT Pro version. But then I hear, oh, if you get Perplexity, then you get Perplexity and all of these other ones. So now I'm just kind of stuck with knowing the best thing to apply my money to get the most bang for my buck out of these AI tools. So if you do have any recommendations for us
Yeah,
at the
I
end
do.
or at any point, I would really appreciate that insight.
Sure. If you see, I think I'm sharing my Perplexity screen. It has all these models in it, so you can use them, but it only has certain features. So you can do the regular like writing stuff, but it won't do like anything else. So like if I go to chat, oh, now it's asking me to pay for that. ChatGPT Pro didn't like that. If I go to ChatGPT, this my pro version, I have a lot more things like I can code, I can connect, I can do deep research. I've connected to Canva and Photoshop, like all kinds of other things I can do. What it does in Perplexity is just the regular chat bot. It doesn't do all of these other things.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, and ChatGPT is also in Copilot.
yes, it
So
is.
can you switch to Copilot
Yeah.
and go over to the blue next to auto? Yeah, sorry, it's the auto one.
Yeah.
And you can see, oh no, I'm sorry. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting with Microsoft because they rely on like Claude making PowerPoints is better than Microsoft making PowerPoints, and chat with ChatGPT is better than Microsoft Chat. So that's how they've decided to integrate. So they have their stuff, but they're integrating with those companies.
Yeah. So Jamal, what Rena is showing you is she just went into Microsoft's 365 and you can see Copilot comes up right away. It's the first thing you see on your screen is the Copilot chat window.
Yeah, and it has all these different modes. You can make agents and research. You can upload anything from your OneDrive or from other places as well. So it's just like
Yeah.
the other ones now, yeah. And then
As soon as I figure out to sleep a little less, I think I can figure out the Copilot as well.
yeah.
There's so much stuff coming up. I like this.
The
Yeah.
funny thing about it is the apps are now at the bottom. So we're used to these, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. It's like down there at the bottom by your name. That's confusing for most people. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, the apps disappeared. Like I need to do Word doc, but they're hiding down there. It could
And
change.
then when you go into each app, let's say you open up Excel, you'll see the Copilot icon in the app too. So it's built into each app as well as in that main screen. In that main screen, it's looking across all apps. In this screen, it's just working within Excel. Do you see it
Yeah,
there?
so there should
Oh,
be
yeah.
when I hit home, there should
It
be
should
my
be way over
Copilot
on the,
tab on the right,
yeah.
somewhere over there. I guess I have to have data in there or something, but it does come up eventually when I.
Just look, you can just look for that little multicolored icon, and that's how you launch it within, and I can share my screen too
Oh,
and
yeah, I
show
don't
it.
know where mine went.
Okay.
The last time I
We'll do it
used
when
it
we
was
get to
like,
Copilot.
the last time I used it was like 6, 7 months ago, and it was not as good, but now it is much better. So I gotta, the whole idea of this, they have the whole environment, and I like that. So you can communicate with OneDrive, with your email, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's a good positive thing about it.
You're right, and it wasn't very good like 4 or 5 months ago. It was horrible. And Microsoft just went into a strategic alliance with Anthropic, which is Claude. So they're going to start rolling out a lot of Claude on the back end stuff. So it's going to become even more powerful. Plus, it'll be secure. Okay. I can't remember what slide we were on.
Okay. I found out. I know where that Copilot is in PowerPoint 'cause that's the one I use it all the time in. Let me just share that, then I'll share the slides again. So it's just on the top bar here. So when I bring it up, I can ask questions about the slide and make changes. It just comes up on the right. So it's just so it comes up when that bar comes up. Then they all have it. Word has it, Excel has it. So you get your little helper right there.
So how do you open the Copilot by itself? So I want to say, go find me this PowerPoint that I created last month.
Oh, that'd be from kind of the main screen in your Microsoft, like there. And then you
Okay.
can go find all my emails from Marcy or go find PowerPoints, but I do that
Yeah.
all the time from this screen.
So,
It's going to save me a
Yeah.
lot of time. Thank you.
Yeah.
So a couple examples is we had back and forth. We were updating some of our courses, and I couldn't remember what our decision was. So I said, hey, did we ever come to a decision about this particular course? Or tell me if there's anything remaining to be done. So I went and looked at all of our emails. I save all our meeting notes in there. And it went and found all our meeting notes and it summarized our discussion and where we landed. So it automatically does that for you. You don't have to say, go look at Outlook, go look. I just said, hey, where did we land on this? Did we make a decision? Or where are we on this particular task? And it looked everywhere. Or like Rena just showed you. Another one of my tricks is at the end of every week, I say, look at what I say, give me a summary of my tasks for next week based on this week's activities. And it'll look at my emails and all kinds of things and give me a to-do list for the following week.
This is wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now we're going to show you a few demos of things we use it for.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with Gemini, and I have these slides up, and you could do this. I just put an example for 3 different tools, and the first one is kind of like what we were doing before, problem solving. So it's community college wants to improve digital equity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up see, I can't bring up 2 screens at the same time, I don't think, but I'm going to copy that into my Gemini. So just do it live. And then if you want to try it as well, I can put it in the chat. So I'll just bring up my Gemini. Let's see. Okay. So I'll just put my biggest problem is typing. Sometimes I use the microphone. I'll show you what it does. Wants to improve digital equity. This is coming up a lot because there's a huge digital divide on folks using AI that don't have the digital background in the first place. Probably should have I'm not going to type it all out. I'll just put etc. But it'll come out. Actually, another way I do this, sometimes I take a screenshot. This is really cool. And then I just can copy a screenshot in there for further information so it sees what I'm doing.
Yeah, Gemini is pretty good on the changing
it?
the picture to text.
Yeah, I think it's better than for me with words half the time, especially if it's doing something wrong. I'm like, no, look at this, what you did, and fix it. So it'll go through and it starts going through that. And I have it on Pro, so it's going to think longer and do a better response. And this is actually a real problem that colleges are trying to figure out, like, oh, before we just dump everyone in AI, we need to go back and teach about files and folders and moving files and downloads and all kinds of storage and safety and ethics and all that other stuff. So that's the problem that we're all dealing with right now. So it'll come up and it's gonna, there we go. It's got an objective. And because I gave it a short prompt, it actually, what it does in the background is it figures out more things about your prompt. So it's almost like what we were talking about before. There's the objective and the framework, framing the equity, analyzing that, construction. So it will go through a very detailed analysis of digital equity. And that, then you could bring that, like, this would be really useful for all the meetings I'm going to right now on this. And have the background, and it's doing something there. Anyways, it's a great analysis, and I go include everything in the to see if they can read my document. So I pasted that prompt. Let's see if they can understand it. So it's really good at reading documents. So or seeing something on your screen. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can either take a screenshot and just drag it in there, or I have Gemini in my Chrome browser, and I don't know if it'll show on Zoom, but I can tap that and I can have my Gemini right next to everything else. And I can be in any screen here and I can ask, this can see my screen and it acts as an agent over to the left. So if I wanted it to do something for me, like I could just tell it on the right, go do something for me on this stuff. So it's working on all of that. So Gemini's, again, this is a whole environment because I'm in Chrome now. I've got my agent on the right, and I've got Gemini answering my questions about digital equity on the left.
So while it's working, do you want me to show one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. So my example is, let me pull up. I had a really, I have a syllabus that was kind of a mess. And I wanted to take it and I asked Claude to do this, but again, I could use any assistant. And I said, and I'll put the prompt in the window, I asked it to create a nice little calendar for students that week by week, sort of what's due that day, the essential things they need to know week by week. Let me put the prompt that I used in the window. And it was just your typical text-based syllabus. It's 3 pages. And so I asked it to create a 16-week semester at a glance calendar. And I said, my syllabus is kind of a mess, so use your best judgment. And then I had some follow-up prompts based on what it gave me. So let's take a look at what, are you seeing my screen, the prompt?
Let's see. Zoom screen. Yeah.
Yes, okay. So basically it gave me a week by week breakdown. And then I said, can you add a column for required readings from the textbook? And then I said, they have skills checkoffs in this class. So I said, can you flag which weeks there are skills checkoffs and give me a calendar? Because I want to start to make sure I have my lab scheduled for those weeks way in advance. And let me show you what it created. So it went from this, let me go back to, and this is what it created. So it went from being are you seeing the calendar?
Yeah.
Okay. So it went from my text-based syllabus and it went week by week. It gave the topic with the key activities and anything that's due that week. And before I didn't have this required reading column. And so when I asked it to add it, it gave me another version with this added. And I didn't tell it what colors to use. I'll show you a trick in a minute. I've trained Claude on our branding and I'll show you how you can do that too. So it automatically used our pink and blue branding, but I didn't tell it to do things in red. It made those decisions. If I didn't like it, I could go back and tell it, to change the colors or do something different. But it did this all in about 2 minutes. It was amazing.
And that was in Claude, did you say?
That was in Claude.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And again, you can use any assistant to do this sorts of things. So I just prefer Claude, and it's gotten better and better at creating these outputs. So that's my preferred tool these days. And you can use the free version for this. It will create it with the free version. And I love that from my syllabus, it took the name and put a footer in at the bottom. I didn't give it any instruction about any of all this. It just made all these decisions on its own. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
I want to say this is extremely helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Rena, is yours done?
It might be, but when I switched screens, I didn't check. I was on ChatGPT. Let's see. I'm not sure. But show us how you did the branding.
Yeah, we're getting ahead in the deck, but I can show you that. Yeah. I can show, I will show that while we're in there. Let me share recording. So how I did the branding is, we're back to Claude again, but it's similar for every tool. If you go down to your account, my account's at the bottom, all of them have settings. And this is where you, Kathy, gave us an example if you went in there and told it you want bullet points. So if you want something consistent in your output, you'll do that in the settings. And so what I did in Claude, it's actually saved in capabilities. Claude has a memory as well as things called skills. And so, and they're in the capabilities section. So in my memory, over time, when I started to interact with Claude, it built a memory, but you can at any time with Claude in particular, I can say, hey, save this to memory. So at some point in time, I introduced myself to Claude. I gave it some information about me and my company, a brief history, so it got to know me. But at one point, I asked it to brand something I was creating with our branding, and I gave it our colors. I told it how I wanted the footer. And then I started giving it more instructions about accessibility because I want all our documents to be accessible. And when I did that, I said, will you save this to memory? So now it's in Claude's memory. So every time it creates a document for me, it's going to use this branding. Now the caveat about that is every time it does something, it uses, sometimes I don't want it branded with our branding. So I'll have to tell it not to use our branding because it's in its memory. It's always going to use our branding, which is great. But I have to remember not to tell it when I don't want to use its branding. Then there's these things called skills, which are repeatable, customizable instructions. Now, it's not saved in memory, but you can activate. So, because I create a lot of guides, I gave it instructions in the skills how I want the guides developed. So, when I start to interact with Claude and I'm working on a guide, I'll say, use the guide skill. Because I remembered I saved this in here and it has instructions on what I want. I do want emojis used in my guides, and I have difficulty ratings because you'll notice in the things we shared with you today, there were some difficulty ratings in there, and it used stars. So when I have it just creating a guide only, these are all my instructions I've given it as to how I want it to format guides. And so you do that in skills. And like I said, I invoke skills with the prompt that I give Claude. So I'll say, use the guide skill to develop this document. The other great thing in Claude is projects, and I think Rena, you're going to show projects in ChatGPT. So you use projects when you want to upload a lot of documents that you want the tool to use to help you work through a long-term task. So like I worked on a big research project, and it ended up being like a 100-page research document in the end. So that's a project because you're going to be doing a lot of interacting with your AI assistant and getting it to work with you to develop multiple steps. And so you would set up a project for that and you give it instructions, you tell it what the project's about, and you give it all kinds of instructions around that project. And I'll show you a tip for even getting to the instructions in a minute. But I asked the AI assistant to help me develop the instructions. So in this case, I said, Claude, I'm working on a research project. And this is what the research project's for. And my ultimate goal is to publish the report. And I think a Claude project would be the best use for this. Can you give me information I can cut and paste into your instructions to work on this project? So I never draft these instructions myself. I ask Claude to help me draft them, and then I just cut and paste them right into the instructions.
Can I chime
So
in
those
on
are
that one? The one little thing that I learned.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I
yes.
use the projects for ChatGPT. The reason I'm using it is if I'm in a course and I have I want to communicate with my students or grading or whatever, I want to be sure that the course material is used, not the web page. So I put my course chapters in there. So every time I want to do something, I said, okay, this is chapter 2 related. I wanted material on chapter 2 only, nothing from outside of this. Even though sometimes it just goes off and do whatever it wants, but at least it tries to constrain over what the limits we have or guidelines that we have for my classes. Because if you're chapter 2, I don't want to, talk about chapter 8 or something. And that has been helpful, even though sometimes it just goes off and do whatever it wants.
Fantastic.
That's great. Thank you. The other thing is I'll create you can see I have a project called document fact checking. So I do a lot of fact checking, especially on my research projects. So if I have a task I repeat a lot, I'll just set it up as a project. And I have in my instructions how I want it to fact check. I want it to use verifiable sources. There are things I want it to detect for. So these are my instructions. Now all I have to do is upload a document and say, upload a file and say, please fact check that. I don't have to tell it what I want it to do when it's fact checking. It automatically will look at my instructions and it'll start to fact check. So let me go like this one. It was a calculation I got actually from Perplexity. And I said, fact check the calculation. And it went to the instructions. It said, okay, how does she want me to fact check the calculations? And the final verdict was everything was okay. And it'll tell me if there's any action needed, which I gave it in the instructions. I said, tell me at the end what your final verdict is. So this is an example of a repeatable task that I just set up as a project. So I don't have to repeat this every time I want to do some fact checking.
Rena, I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
I noticed that you're focusing on Claude when it comes to projects. I have a couple of major projects I want to start on, and I have never done a whole project with AI. And so, if I have not started, would you recommend Claude versus ChatGPT? I do have a paid subscription for ChatGPT. I don't have one for Claude. And so, what do you recommend?
So Rena can show you I can show you a project too. I've done some research projects in ChatGPT. I default to Claude because it knows me so well now, and I have all those things about myself in there. So if you're using ChatGPT, you can stick with ChatGPT and just keep working with it to get the results you want. So there's no magic. It's just which tool you're used to working with. And if you have a pro account on GPT, go ahead. If you want to, I'll stop sharing, Rena, if you want to show.
Yeah. So I write in ChatGPT almost exclusively, and I have all those instructions over there. And I'll switch there in a second. This just to finish this thing. I did my digital equity thing, but I just want to show you at the end. I said just make a infographic on my stuff.
Wow.
And there it is. And it's spelled because I'm using the pro version, it spells everything right. I mean, that's like unbelievable. So then I just download it and stick it in my Canvas or wherever.
This is incredible.
Yeah, super incredible. For ChatGPT, I'm addicted to that. I didn't have it for about a week. I was doing an experiment to see if I could change, and literally I had like a mental problem. I was like, oh my God, I need it. So and I think that's the thing with these. I think Marcy's experiencing the same thing. I've used it for about 5 years. So I use it in industry as well. And so it knows all about me and it refers to me how I would need. And so you can do it all here. There's settings, there's personalization and settings here as well. So I would advise go through these and set it how you want to write and then test it and see for your project if it's writing in the correct style can you train it to do what you want? And that'll give you your answer. So, I want it to refer to me by that name and my occupation, tells more about, so it always knows I'm teaching and I'm active, whatever. All these things are really important because that's how the response is going to be based. So I would go in there and each of these things, and if you don't want it to train, you can go into each of these things and set it up how you need to. It's similar to what Marcy did. It kind of does the same thing. I think Claude has more kind of categories for you, but you can put all of this in your personalization somewhere in ChatGPT.
To add to that one is when you're creating a project in ChatGPT, you can have instruction for that project only. That's going to overwrite your personal settings. So that's another thing good in the projects. You can put the instructions that I want to be this person, I want you to do this. And when you are in that project folder, it's going to look at those over
Right. Oh,
your
yeah.
personalization.
And it has
Correct,
a project
yes.
too. So same thing, you can create a project and put all your documents in that one project, just like and there's even settings for that. So how you want that, if you want it to be a default or just for this project, just like you were saying. So
The other thing can I share my screen for a
yeah,
second?
please.
Okay. The other thing is in ChatGPT, you can create what's called a GPT, which is like a little automated assistant that's trained. And in a workshop, I think in a month for Lark, we're actually going to do a workshop on agents and we'll have GPTs in there as well. But I've created one called Reliable Researcher. And I gave it instructions, as Jamal said. So with projects and with GPTs, you give it these custom instructions and it follows them every single time. So I gave it instructions as to how I want it to research things and what kind of format I want to give the output in. And it'll automatically follow all those instructions and give me the output the way I want it. I also have a fact checker in here that I built with my instructions on how I want it to fact check things. And so I named it the fact check fellow, and I can ask it a question and upload a document and it'll fact check it for me. So these are all the GPTs I created. I have a report studio. I have a practical researcher in here, a workshop builder pro. So they all have instructions on how I want it to interact with me and the format that I want the output in. Kathy, did you have a question?
I have a question. Yeah. In terms of fact checking, does it include plagiarism? Like if I use a quote, and is it possible for the agent in this case, or the advisor that's assisting you, the assistant, is it possible for them to check the quote for accuracy to be cited in a bibliography? Because I know that Google has access to many books, a lot, thousands, hundreds of thousands of books, but not all books. So I was just curious.
Yeah, in a general prompt, or I mean, there's a lot to fact checking for plagiarism. So I wouldn't even begin to create a GPT to do that because there's a lot of things it has to look at. So if you use these tools for plagiarism, they're not the tools to use. You should use a dedicated plagiarism tool for that. There's a lot that goes into that. But my fact checker that I built, I say find and give me, it'll link. I ask it to link to the specific paragraph in a document and give me the source and the link to it. So if I upload something and say fact check, it'll do that. It'll say I found it on this page and it'll give me a hyperlink that goes right to that page. So those are some things that you can build in that it's pretty accurate at. When I first started creating these fact checkers for myself, they weren't very good, and the models have gotten better and better and better over time. It still misses things. It still gets. That's the thing about these AI assistants; they still get things wrong. So I never take, especially for high stakes sort of activities, I never take what they give me and just run with them. I always double check and verify and all that as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
And you can create those an agent or what's called gems in Microsoft or Gemini. So if you're not using ChatGPT Pro, you can do them in those others as well. So I don't think we're going to be finishing today, Marcy.
No. Do we quickly want to go and just say what's on some of the advanced? So
Yeah.
all this is in our deck. There's links to everything. Additional features. So we did go through projects and some additional features. We didn't get to Notebook LM. We were going to show that, but you'll be able to, like I said, go there. We did show Claude's projects. I had a couple notebooks. If you guys want to stay on, I can go through Notebook LM a little bit. I'm happy to stay on after our conclusion. Okay, these are some strategies we use extensively to sort of get better results. So I did talk about meta prompting, where I ask the AI assistant, I give it my goal, and then I ask it to write the prompt for me. And I gave you an example of how I asked Claude to write instructions that I can cut and paste to create a project. So in your guides, this leveling up your AI use, it's in the, I'll put that link in the folder in the chat, but it's also in the G Drive that we shared. All these techniques are in there. And so here's where I asked it a prompt. And I said, I want to create this guide. Can you give me a prompt that I can use to do that? And you'll see there's a link there to the meta prompt that it created for me. And I cut and paste that back into Claude, and it made this incredible guide for me. And that's it. You know, I never would have gotten a guide with this level of detail and formatting without the meta prompt that it gave me to create it. Using a conversational approach, I think we talked a lot about that, so we can skip that. And the other thing I do very frequently is I'll ask three models for an output. So I asked them all about what are skills employers are looking for entry-level cybersecurity technicians. I asked Claude. I use GPT and I use the thinking mode, so it goes a little longer and a little deeper. And then I use Gemini deep thinking mode that even goes even longer and even deeper. Then I took all three of the results I gave them. Go to the next slide, Rena. I uploaded them into Claude and I said, can you synthesize the information from all three of these outputs? Where do they agree? Where do they differ? And can you give me a synthesized recommendations? And it gave me this incredible document that was fabulous. So that's a technique I use a lot. I give multiple outputs and I kind of compare and contrast them or play one AI assistant against the other. If it knows you're doing that, it seems to up its level of specificity. It gets better and better if it knows you're comparing it to another AI assistant.
To be the smartest one.
Yeah.
We kind of went through this, but I use this a lot for songwriting and composing. So I gave it whatever role you're doing or level and industry. We use levels because we're doing like K-12 and community college and in universities. But it'll give you outputs based on your role. So I just did explain the meaning of I am the walrus because we all want to know that. This is a great one using Microsoft Copilot, believe it or not. I wanted an image of the heart, and then I iterated and said, give me the cross section and all the labels, and it came up with a beautiful diagram that's accurate and accurately labeled, like textbook ready type of document. A constraint based. This is where I use this also a lot in script writing, songwriting, where I might be like, I need 5 verses and a bridge and what all the things for my song, and then I give it all the constraints and I tell it parts where you're just not singing words, but just making like humming, all kinds of things. And those constraints are super important to get really personified outputs. And so I actually made a song, but I'm not going to play it right now. It's right out of time. And at the end here, we have additional resources and free courses, which are pretty popular. We're in about 100 countries now with these, and we have a lot of free resources on and guides and a lot of they're beautiful because Marcy is really gotten great at Claude, as you can see, so really nice to use, and you can just download them for free on there. And we have a special offer for a workshop, and there's do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, so the Google Gemini course isn't free, but if you type Lark1 at checkout, you'll be able to get that course for free. The ChatGPT 5 course is free. And then the next slide we're putting, because we focused a lot on, there's another resource in the drive called Supercharge Your Practices with AI. So there's a lot of prompt examples in there that you can cut and paste. We have 100 prompts, depending on your role in there as well. And then the next slide is the creating educational media with AI. We focused a lot on text-based outputs in this meeting, like reports and documents. In this one, it'll be focused mostly on images and video and audio. So if you were hoping to get more on that type of output, it'll be in that April 24th workshop.
Awesome. Okay, Judy, you made it by 11.
And Kathy, I couldn't find that team on the fly, but I will find it and I'll upload it into the G Drive.
Thank you so much. Also, the free workshop that you just mentioned to use Lark1 for, do you mind dropping the link for it, please?
Sure.
And we'll also follow up, Kathy. I'll send an email to the task force with that information as well.
Thank you so much.
Or I can send it to the registration list of this participating group.
And I just put it in the chat.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for being here. I hope that was helpful for you guys.
Yes, that was great dialogue from everyone. Very interactive, very hands-on. Thank you so much, Rena and Marcy, for your expertise, your expert guidance. Type yes in the chat if you learned something today. I know that I did. Just want to announce that next Friday is a double feature Friday on February 27th. The first professional development training will be on AI in health careers. And that will be followed by AI in energy, construction, and utilities careers. So if you know of other friends in the industry, colleagues in education who may benefit from this type of training, please feel free to share that with them. You'll see that I also put the feedback form responder link, and I'll do that again right now. In the chat, we would really love your feedback from today's session. I don't know if anybody planned, did you want to do the notebook? Should I stay on, or
I'm happy to if people would like to do that.
if anybody has to leave, you are free to leave, and we hope to see you next week. Oh, last thing. I also put in the chat earlier, but I don't know if anyone saw it. We started a new AI LinkedIn group. And this is to keep the conversation going for all of us. So if you would like to join, you're more than welcome. We invite you to. The link is in the chat. So if you have to go, thank you very much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. And if you'd like to stay on for a little bit, you are more than welcome to. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just have a quick question on the LM when we're ready.
On Notebook LM?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead. We're ready.
So I have seen demonstrations of it, and frankly, I haven't had the chance to go back and do my own research, where you can use a document to generate a podcast kind of conversation to help. Like if I want to generate a podcast that or an interview style that where the students can listen to it instead of reading it, I could do that. And I tried it a couple of times, and it would just spin, 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 and nothing happens. Any tips would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so you've already been in it, so I'll just skip over to an example notebook. Let me share my screen.
I also have one if you guys want me to share it.
Oh, good.
Okay, a couple tips about using that I found with Notebook LM. So this is a simple one because all I've done, I created one to introduce students to my course. So I want to get students off with a warm, happy feeling. And so I just uploaded a syllabus, and I said, create a infographics that sort of walks them through what this course is about. And it created the infographic. It just took information from my syllabus and created this. And then I wanted to do an intro, welcome audio, podcast style audio, and I created that, and a guide, a success handbook guide, and all that sort of things. Okay, so you're absolutely right. What I'm going to tell you is some tips to using Notebook. The more resources you put over here, I find the longer it takes for it to create things in the studio, and it doesn't know. You have to give it some prompts to refine what you wanted to focus on. So try to keep the first time I used this, I uploaded everything for an entire course, and I didn't get super good results, and it took forever for it to create things. So then I learned that if I go unit by unit or even week by week and create one notebook for each week or one notebook for each unit, you're going to get better results. So if you've got a lot of resources over here, that might be part of your problem as to why it goes and goes and goes and goes and you don't get too far. Let me show you. I'm going to go to another notebook example. Notebook LM. Do I have my psychology one in here? Nope. Sorry, I use multiple browsers. Let me go to this one. Oops. This one. Where's Notebook LM? There it is.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. You can see I have, which browser did I create mine? Well, let me go back to this one. Sorry.
I have one if you want me to share with you.
I actually wanted to show her some tips. I have some prompts set up.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, okay, here it is. Okay. So a couple more tips. This one is for a psychology class. So I uploaded my open educational resource textbook, which by the way was a mistake because it's huge. I should have I should have parsed out that textbook. It's like 200 and something pages. So that was a mistake I made. I would have got better results if I had focused on a particular unit. But the more you can narrow down, are you like, let's say you're creating an overview. If you just click on this, it's going to look at all your resources. If you go in and edit it, you can narrow down each one of these studio features, except for Mind Map, has these little pencils. So that means you can start to give it more instruction or guidance on what you want it to create. So this is the podcast one. So of course, if you're going to go into a deeper dive versus a brief, it's going to take longer to generate. So you can tell it the length, what type of format you wanted to use, the language, and then this is where you can narrow it down. So let's say you want to create a podcast about a specific topic in your course. You would say, do a podcast on chapter 4 or do a podcast on operant conditioning, and that narrows it down even further. So when you do that, you're going to get a better, more narrowed, and you can see how long it's taking because it's creating an overview based on all my resources right now. So it may time out and you may not get what you want. So let's go down here. Here is an example of what I'm talking about. I asked it to create, if you click on these 3 little dots, you'll see the prompt I used. So I say, focus on the differences between classical conditioning and operant conditioning with clear real world examples students create in daily life. So this podcast, instead of looking at all my resources, it went and found just information related to classical and operant conditioning, and it made the audio just based on that topic. So I got a much more refined and better result, and it didn't take quite as long. Just so you know, these audio and video files can take up to 5 minutes to generate. So if your browser tends to time out or you don't have a good internet connection, that might also be an issue. The reports, the ones that don't take as long are the reports, the quizzes, the flashcards. Infographics can take a while if you're using the detailed one, the very detailed one, that can take a little bit longer. But if you go with concise and standard, they don't take quite as long. So, you know, also I found that some languages, if you're doing it in multiple languages, some complex languages take a little bit longer than English does because these models were trained mostly, on English and the more common languages. So the more obscure languages you're using, but it could be your prompt. The more specific you get with the prompt and the fewer resources it's using over here that you've uploaded, the faster and better your responses will be.
Got it. Thank you
Okay,
so
Jamal,
much.
did you want to share yours and your tips?
No, that's okay. Renee, do you share these things through the link that you have in Notebook LM, or do you download it and upload it to the Canvas, to your class?
Oh,
Are you asking me or Kathy?
Either one of you who are using this for your classrooms.
Okay, so one thing about Notebook LM is the resources it generates over in the studio are not accessible. So, so the audio files do not have, or the video files don't have closed captioning. You know what? I'll put in the G Drive. We have a whole guide on Notebook LM. So
Okay.
I usually download everything I create. I pull it into Gemini or ChatGPT, and I'll say, create an SRT text file that I can use to close caption this video, or make this report accessible. I'll pull it into Word and I'll say, make this report accessible, or to Copilot. So there are things I do to get everything I create in an accessible format and then upload it into the LMS. So that's a drawback. You can share this link, but the students are going to come in here and this won't be accessible. So if you do that, you're going to have to provide an accessible version for your students, or equally effective alternative.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not sure when you get the Google EDU, right now you can use so I can create, Rena showed where one of these sources I create, I can use it as an input in Gemini.
You don't use the whole notebook, so you could actually just click on the notebook as input and just say, create accessible documents for these things.
Yeah.
The one I used in my school one, it was only accessible to our a student with a specific domain of our school.
Right.
I don't know if it has changed or not, but that
No, I
was
did that, yes, I think yesterday. Yeah, it says everybody in your work group. So anybody at the college, once you share it, can see it, but nobody with a different domain, essentially.
You know, there's all kinds of, you know, the new compliance in April around accessibility. Everybody's taking that pretty seriously, but some colleges, like, they won't let you do anything unless you have the accessible version of it or an equally accessible plan, or, you know, they're pretty diligent about that. So that's hopefully, given that Notebook LM, because they, you know, it is something that a lot of instructors are using. Hopefully they'll come up with a way to make their things accessible.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
telling my
bit
students to use it for their own. I'm telling them, hey, this is a good tool, go use it, learn it, figure out how you learn, and then ask Notebook LM to do things for you. This is wonderful. Like I think everybody, a student, faculty, administrator, should have come to this training. I love what you guys doing, and I think the communication is very important because everybody's going in different direction, and having this compliance and these things that everybody's talking about it and the things that's available. I think this. I was surprised we had only 15 people. I should have 150, 250. This one. But because I think these are the information that you guys were giving today is something that every single person in the community college or outside has to know about these things.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, we
Yes,
both use it all day for work and teaching and industry and grants and everything. So it's, it's not just like, I mean, we're actually doing that all day. So
Yes, that's true. And I hope that I didn't talk too much, taking over your work. So
Oh, no, absolutely not. Your contributions were so helpful, and we're glad people were engaged. That's what we're hoping for, is having that level of engagement. So that was great.
I don't
And
know.
we're happy to stay if there's anything else that you guys want us to cover.
I think we should have a session for Notebook LM and tell everybody to come and learn it and do it. I think that's a very, very strong tool for learning.
Well, I will take
Yeah.
your recommendation, Jamal, to the AI task force, and we can look to adding that as one of our professional development sessions or one of our micro learning opportunities that we'll be developing for the 2026 calendar year.
Thank you.
But I will thank everybody again, and Raina and Marcy, thank you for spending the extra time to address this. We really appreciate that. It's really kind of you, and we appreciate all of your enthusiasm and engagement in this topic. It's obviously super fun and helps exactly what we said, our productivity, our critical thinking, our creativity, and all that good stuff. So thank you again for joining, everyone. We hope to see you in our future AI trainings. Have a wonderful weekend.